You could sustain yourself with nothing but cacao for the rest of your life. Might get a little bit boring, but actually you can live. There's enough fats, vitamins, and minerals that you could live and sustain yourself just off of cacao. This is a cacao tree.
Yeah.
It's a fruit tree, but it's an unusual fruit tree. You know, if you think of most fruit trees, like an apple tree or an orange tree, it blooms and it blossoms once a year, right? It'll have its fruit, you know, one time a year. Whereas if we look here on the cacao tree, we have all stages of life. Like here we can see the little flower, the blossoms here.
Yeah.
We have the small baby pods that are just starting. And then we have large pods that are getting ready to be harvested. This is probably another month out from harvest. A little bit about the cacao tree itself. Cacao is an incredibly healthy plant. It's a fruit, basically. There are more antioxidants found in raw cacao than any other plant on earth. More than like blueberries, acai, grapes, wine, you know.
Okay.
So you know, people look at all these superfood antioxidant type things.
Like oysters.
Yeah, all of these things, you know, acai and all these like, you know, superfoods. You'll find more antioxidants in raw cacao than any other plant. In its raw form. That doesn't mean going out and getting like a Hershey's, Nestle's, or Cadbury bars. Super good for you. But like in its raw form, off the tree, amazing. The more we process that, the further we get away from that, of course, the less health benefits that it actually has, you know. So if we look at kind of how the Mayans consumed in the cacao, it was a very healthy, savory dish. You know, we think of cacao and chocolate today as more of an indulgence, more as something that we would, you know, consume as a dessert. But in the Mayan world, cacao was actually incredibly healthy. It was consumed raw. It was consumed as a, have you ever had mole?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was very kind of a more of a traditional Mayan dish, like mixed with chilies and spices.
Yeah.
It would have also, the Mayans would have used cacao as a rub for meat. They would have taken like, dried it into the dried bean, crushed it into a powder, and used this for like a rub on cooking things. It was also used for a lot of rituals and ceremonies. Like I said, it was in the Mayan world, cacao was considered to be a sacred tree. It was a gift from the gods because it was always producing and yielding the fruits. Yeah. Whereas, you know, things like corn or beans, it would have 1 or 2 crops a year, and that was it. Whereas, like I said, you can come to the cacao tree and pretty much always find a ripe pod. So this was one of the main reasons that they really considered the cacao tree to be a sacred tree, a gift from the gods. You could sustain yourself with nothing but cacao for the rest of your life. Might get a little bit boring, but actually you can live. There's enough fats, vitamins, and minerals that you could live and sustain yourself just off of cacao. When processed chocolate was actually first introduced to Europe, they say that a pound of processed chocolate was worth more than a pound of gold. So it's I wish it was still that way. It'd be really nice. Hershey's was the one that kind of really came up with this whole process of making a stable chocolate bar that was able to be mass produced and then shipped across coast to coast all over the U.S. and they really exploded. And then, of course, a lot of other chocolate manufacturers, Nestle's, Cadbury, Replicated, all these other started doing the same thing. So this was really the downfall of the health benefits of chocolate. It made it mass. They were able to mass produce it, but it's been overly processed. Imagine cacao is like a vegetable. Like a raw vegetable is very, very healthy. A steamed vegetable, a little less healthy. A fried vegetable, little to no health benefits. So raw cacao, amazingly healthy. Processed cacao with what we're going to be doing today, just blending it and processing that down into a liquid chocolate, let's call that the steamed vegetable. Commercial chocolate would be the fried vegetable, you know. Growing up, chocolate actually gave me really bad headaches and migraines. I was one of those weird kids, like I would eat like normal chocolate bars and it would just give me a really bad headache. But come to find out, it was actually just the chemicals and all the other crap, like in shitty chocolate, that wasn't good for me. So I grew up really not eating a lot of chocolate. And when I moved here, I had no idea. I knew nothing about cacao or about chocolate whatsoever. And when I moved here, I happened to see some of these really unusual trees with these weird pods on it, which I had no idea what it was. And so I asked some of our workers, like, hey, what is this? And they're like, oh, it's a chocolate tree, you know? So I was like, oh, cool. So I started researching a little bit about it and how you could make chocolate and different things. And at the time, there was just nothing on the internet as far as like how to make chocolate from the bean. So I asked some of the workers if they could bring some of the local ladies or their wives over to show me how they do it, which they showed me, and it was good, but it was just very different than what we would consider normal chocolate, like mainstream chocolate. They would just kind of take a pestle and mortar and they would grind it down, added about 50% sugar, so it was quite gritty and granulated. It tasted good, but it was just wasn't resembling like a nice chocolate bar like what I was thinking, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, well, that was cool. And so I started researching and reading a little bit about like how to make chocolate at home from the beans. And at that point in time, you know, this was 10, 11 years ago, thereabouts. Everything was just saying the only way to make chocolate is you needed to buy this like special machine, like this conching machine, which at the time they were very expensive. They were like $2,000, and I was just like, well, I'm not going to spend $2,000 on a machine to make chocolate. You know, that just seems really silly. So I started reading about what the machine did, and basically the machine was just grinding, heating, and blending for about 24 to 48 hours, making this really smooth, creamy chocolate liqueur. And so I was like, okay, so I guess the main thing is just blending and heating. So I just started playing around with stuff. Blending it, trying to put it on the stove like in a bain-marie or a double broiler, and trying to different things like, there has to be
about temperatures and
heating it up, and I was like, it can't be that complicated. I said, at the end of the day, they didn't have these conching machines 100 years ago and they were making chocolate, so there has to be a way of doing this. So I just started playing around, and basically the easiest process was just blending for a long time and kind of forgetting about it, really. And then eventually it turned into a really good liquid chocolate. Yeah. And so we started making our own chocolate for ourselves and for the volunteers. And little by little, we had some guests, and they would try it and they tasted it and they're like, oh, this is really good. This is amazing. How did you make this? And so it started to evolve into a tour, and then it started to evolve into like, well, we have all of this vacant land. We should like create a cacao plantation and start doing something. And so it kind of just grew into that. So it wasn't really planned when we bought the property to do the hotel. It wasn't a plan that we were going to have a cacao plantation. It just kind of evolved into that. And so, and now we have like basically a food forest and thousands of cacao trees.
Nice.
Yeah.
Great, man.
Yeah. So what we would have done if we were out farming, we would have taken that raw cacao pod off the tree, we would have chopped it off, cut it open, and scraped out the inside. So here you can see the ripe cacao. So if you want to grab one and take it and suck on it, they're really good. These are small ones, but it'll give you an idea. This is what we would be fermenting. We would just take a big box of these, put them in there, let these ferment for 5 to 7 days, mixing them, turning them, and then once they've been fermented, you're going to take them out of the box, rinse them off in whatever water source you have, and then now they're fairly clean, and you're going to put them out to be sun-dried for around anywhere from 8 to 10 days. Right here, so this is the shell, is that white stuff.
Okay.
So what we're going to do now, in order to get rid of this shell, we're going to throw these onto we're just going to do a light roast. Yeah. So it takes about 5 to 6 minutes. You're going to put them onto just a hot grill or a cast iron skillet or something like this. So did you hear that nice pop right there? Yeah. That's what you want. You want to hear a few of those nice pops. But at the end of the day, you don't want to leave them on here, especially because we're trying to save the shells to make tea. So basically, we've just taken these things off the grill, and they're really hot. So best side thing is I usually let them cool down for a few minutes, just because it's like really easy to get blisters. Yeah, but the idea is that you're just going to take the shell, the bean, and you want to do like a little twist, and then the shell goes into one and the bean goes into the other. So I always like to ask 2 questions on the chocolate tour, which I find kind of interesting. Yeah. So the first question is, how many people do you know that like chocolate? Most everybody, right? Yeah. Most people, yeah. I mean,
8 or 9 people out of 10, I will say.
Yeah, at least, yeah, exactly. Yeah. That love it. And then, and then the next question is, how many people do you know that know how to make chocolate? No one, right? No one, right?
No one.
So for me, it's really an interesting thing, because if you look at like any other product or any other crop, like coffee, everybody knows how I like, a French press, or I like espresso, or I like a cappuccino, or I like just a Americano, or whatever it might be. You know how to make the coffee you like, right? I mean, because you like coffee. Where you have a relationship, you have an idea where it comes from, how it grows. Like, oh, well, coffee grows in these areas. Yeah. And you have an idea about the coffee because it's something you like. You eat it, you consume it on a regular basis. Or whether tea, or even your favorite food. Like, oh, I like pasta, or I like hamburgers, and basically you know how to cook it because it's something you like, you enjoy. So chocolate is a product that basically you start eating from the time you can walk until the day you die. Mm-hmm. And most people's they have no clue that it's a fruit. They don't really have an idea that where it grows. They have an idea of like my favorite brand, or I like Provolone, or I like Godiva, or I like Lindt, or I like this. And that's kind of as far as it goes for the most part. You just like chocolate. And nobody really thinks about, oh, can I make my own chocolate? Where does it come from? And you don't have this connection apart from the company you're getting the chocolate from.
Wow.
But so I find it really interesting, and it's such an easy process. So like what we're going to be showing you today, literally, I mean, if you buy the already pre-roasted and the nibs, this, you can get these at most health food stores now, already pre-shelled. If you have the beans and you have a food processor, you can make chocolate in 15 to 20 minutes. So it's super simple. It's 2 ingredients. It's cacao and sugar. That's it. So you don't need a lot of crazy stuff. But it's interesting that more people don't make their own chocolate. Basically, we've showed our beans now, and watch when I dump these in here, you can kind of see all these like little
They're
flakes.
gonna fly.
Yeah, so just time to do a high dump and let them blow away. So if you're back home, there's 2 ways of doing this. One, you can just continue to dump these back and forth between 2 pans, like put a fan, just all blow away. That's a really easy way. Or the other way is just kind of do like chafing, they call it. Like what they used to do with wheat, just like throw it up in the air, and it all just kind of floats away. So all right. So there's a few machines you could definitely use to make chocolate at home. My recommendation, usually the most common thing, is just a household food processor.
Yeah.
If you have like, Vitamix or a Thermomix, or like a really nice blender, these like really heavy duty stainless steel, like great juicing blending machines, they're amazing. They're like $500, super high speeds, and they get a lot of power. And literally you can take your cacao nibs and your sugar and you throw it into like a Vitamix or a Thermomix. In about 10 to 15 minutes, you're going to have really great liquid chocolate. So hey, this was a quick insight to our chocolate tour here at Utopia Eco Hotel. If you found it interesting and you'd like to learn more about chocolate, next time you're in Guatemala, come say hi and you can get the full tour. Have a great day.